So start off by adding a mesh instance and then giving that a plane mesh with the size of 4 by 2, and then rotate that mesh instance in the x-axis by 90 degrees. Add a new shader material and then a shader script. Firstly, we need to add the cull disabled and unshaded render modes. Cull disabled makes it so the plane is visible from both sides, and unshaded prevents environment lighting from affecting the colors of the shader. I'm just going to put in all the variables now, and I'll explain them as they come up. The uniform variables are the ones that will show up in the inspector. So now that you've got all of these in, you click on your mesh, go into the material, and all the parameters are there now. I'll explain these as they pop up, but first we need to add a noise texture to the cell lines noise. That'll give us those random lines from the start. I'm just going to paste in the one that I had before, and I'll show you the numbers that I changed. I set the width and height to 2048. And then in the noise section you add fast noise light, noise type cellular seed 3, frequency 0.03, fractal type ridged with octaves of 1, cellular distance function Euclidean squared, return type distance div. Then I put in a color ramp with the black marker sort of in the middle. Doesn't have to be perfect, you can fiddle with it later. Turn that one on. Now to get that texture you just made to show up on the plane, we need to use the world coordinates. So in the vertex shader, we're going to set up the world UV variable with the vertex built in, and I'm going to multiply it by this scaling variable so we can change the scale of the lines. If I go over to the inspector and change that value, you can see big changes in the scale. We then use this world UV variable in the textures function along with the noise texture we just made to sample specific points from the texture. The texture is just black and white, so all the color channels are going to be the same. I just want a single float value, so we're just going to take the blue channel and use that. And then to make that show up on the plane, you can set it to the albedo channel. Next, we're going to add in the horizontal lines that will break up this pattern a little bit. For that we need to use the sine function. You can see here the frequency of these lines, how thick they are, is controlled by the frequency variable. If we go in the inspector, change this one down, say 100, see the lines are now a lot larger. We're using the built-in time variable to actually make it move over time. If you multiply it by a speed, you can change how quickly it's going. Again, that variable is in the inspector. If we change that speed over here to say 10, you can see it moves a lot quicker. 20, 40. And this line here is just to correct the values we're getting out of the sine function, because we need the values to be from between 0 and 1, whereas normally the sine function will give you values from between -1 and +1. So we're shifting them up by 1, which is going to make them between 0 and 2, and then timesing it by 1/2, which will bring that down to between 0 and 1. See what we've got so far. We can multiply the horizontal lines value by the cell lines value. By multiplying these two values together, anywhere where these two textures are overlapping will actually be shown, but anywhere where they're both black will remain black. Next up, we're going to add in the edge fade. We're using the power function to create this fading effect, and we're using the UV coordinate X to set the direction. See if I change that to a Y. Now it moves that to the bottom, but we want it off to the side. And then the strength of the fade is being controlled by this edge fade strength variable, which is over in the inspector. So if I change this one, brings it in a lot more, or put in a lower number, it goes out. We're doing the fade on the right side and then mirroring it across to the left and combining both of those two into one final value and then clamping it between 0 and 1. Let's add back in the cell lines and horizontal lines to see what it looks like. I want to add in a subtle pulsing so that the shade will become brighter and dimmer over time. Again, for that we're using the sine function with the built-in time variable and another variable to control the speed of that pulse. Move this albedo down here, you'll be able to see you can see that it's changing between a white and a grey colour. You can change the minimum value that it'll go to with this pulse min variable. It's at 0.4 now. If I make that 0.1, it'll go a lot darker at the bottom end. And then we can change the speed of that pulse with the pulse speed variable in the inspector. I want to combine the cell lines, horizontal lines, and edge fade values and combine them into the alpha channel. This will control how transparent the shader is. We're using the max function with the alpha min variable to make sure that there's always at least a little bit of a hint of color. I don't want it to be entirely transparent at any points. The alpha min is one you can change in the inspector. We set the alpha min to be 0. That will allow the shader to become transparent. You can change these values to be what you want them. So now we've got the cell lines, the horizontal lines, the edge fade, the pulsing, our final alpha mix. Now we just need to put all that in the right channels. So we're putting the alpha mask into the alpha channel, and then we're using the pulse value to add that pulsing over the top of it. And then the albedo we're just setting to the color, which you can set up in the inspector to be whatever you want. That's everything set up now. There's all these parameters in the shader that you can experiment with, see what they do to change how the shader looks. If you want to understand a bit more about how shaders work in Godot, I recommend you have a look at the docs page. I've put a link down in the description. If you have any questions about anything in this video, let me know and I'll try to help you out. The files for this shader are going to be on my GitHub page,